Tries to keep power. President Bush throws his support behind Yeltsin and the deposed Soviet leader. And Bob loses steam but still packs a punch as it plows through New England. CNN headline news. I'm Bob Lozier sitting in for David Goodnow. Soviet tanks are on the move at this hour, reportedly heading toward Leningrad. The Russian news agency RIA says about 180 armored vehicles from elite army and KGB units are driving toward the city. Leningrad's reformist mayor called Monday for citizens to disobey the hardliners who overthrew President Mikhail Gorbachev. In Moscow, the tanks are silent, but the voice of Boris Yeltsin supporters are being heard. Hundreds of civilians and troops loyal to the Russian Federation president are camped out outside the Russian parliament building where Yeltsin is holed up. Yeltsin has called for a general strike to begin Tuesday. Gabby Rato reports on the tumultuous first day of the Soviet coup.
Political hardliners had made their move before dawn. Now it was for the army to back it up on the streets. Columns of armored personnel carriers formed up along the wide avenues of central Moscow. This group assembled in an area close to the Russian parliament. Though the coup happened at about 4 a.m. Moscow time, the first the public knew was from breakfast television. That said, Mr. Gorbachev's duties had been taken over because he was unwell. All morning, the mobilization continued. Trucks, personnel carriers and tanks taking up positions around the city center. Civilians looked on bemused during the Monday morning rush hour. The immediate aims of the mobilization weren't clear. But after a few hours, the city was sealed off. The only way in was by underground trains. The army moved in unopposed at first. But by mid-morning, the hardware was getting bogged down. Crowds climbed aboard personnel carriers in many places. Elsewhere, they were simply surrounded. Pro-reform demonstrators holding up Russian Federation flags or haranguing troops. There were occasional fistfights, but overall there was little violence. Seizing his moment, the Russian President, Boris Yeltsin, climbed aboard a tank. Calling events a reactionary coup that was unconstitutional, he urged the Moscow troops to return to barracks. Yeltsin said Gorbachev was now under house arrest on holiday in Crimea, and he said troops in Moscow should now take orders from him, Yeltsin, not the State Emergency Committee that deposed Gorbachev and now runs the country. The same hardliners who make up the new committee saw Gorbachev off to the G7 summit a month ago. A gathering of conspirators, not colleagues. This afternoon, Gorbachev's self-imposed replacement, Gennady Yanev, gave a press conference.
Well, let me say that Mikhail Gorbachev is now on vacation. He's undergoing treatment in the south of our country. He is very tired after these many years, and he will need some time to get better.
The timing of the coup was no accident. Soviet leaders were due to meet to sign a key Gorbachev reform, giving greater autonomy to the Soviet republics. The hardliners were bitterly opposed to the Union Treaty. Now their troops are keeping precarious peace, and Mr. Gorbachev is suddenly an invalid. By early afternoon, the committee had shut down all but the most anti-reformist newspapers, apart from Izvestia. Most radio stations were off the air or surrounded by troops. Demonstrators were gathering in various squares across the city. In some places, barricades were erected, though there's been very little violence reported either in Moscow or anywhere else. But with communications shutting down, the general picture is increasingly hard to obtain. The troops and the public appear locked into a surly standoff. Gabby Rato, ITN, Moscow.
There is a report that Mikhail Gorbachev has been moved from the Black Sea vacation home where he had reportedly been under house arrest. Quoting witnesses, the Russian news agency RIA says Gorbachev was put on board an airplane bound for an unknown destination. Soviet TV says all is quiet Tuesday morning in the Baltic republics. On Monday, the Kremlin's new leaders moved quickly to strengthen central government control over the independence-minded states. Soviet forces blocked harbors and stormed radio and TV stations. The regional Soviet military commander demanded that Lithuania's military and police force surrender their weapons. Soviet troops blocked access roads leading into the Latvian capital of Riga. Latvian radio reports that Kremlin troops killed a man in downtown Riga. And a Latvian news agency says Soviet military forces seized radio and telephone facilities in Riga early Tuesday. President Bush meets with his top aides Tuesday morning to discuss the state of U.S.-Soviet relations. Mr. Bush interrupted his vacation in Kennebunkport and returned to the White House Monday. He's calling on the new Soviet leadership to restore Mikhail Gorbachev's presidency. He denounced the coup as misguided and illegitimate, and he insisted the new regime live up to its international commitments. He also said the U.S. supports Boris Yeltsin's call for the restoration of the Gorbachev government. At the State Department Monday, the Soviet ambassador to the U.S. promised to continue reforms. However, NATO is warning the new Soviet leadership to stick to the reform plans Gorbachev put in motion. NATO foreign ministers held an emergency meeting Monday in Brussels. In a tough statement, they warned straying from the path of reforms will bring serious consequences for the Soviet Union and the international community. The Pentagon says the Soviet military has not taken any action that threatens the West. And President Bush reports U.S. forces have not been placed on any heightened alert. Defense Secretary Dick Cheney has cut short his vacation to return to Washington. He joined Secretary of State James Baker and U.S. Ambassador to the Soviet Union Robert Strauss in a meeting with the president coming up Tuesday. The Soviet coup is being denounced by Western leaders. British Prime Minister John Major and German Chancellor Helmut Kohl say the new Soviet leadership must hold the line on Gorbachev-initiated reforms. French President Francois Mitterrand wants the new president to ensure Mikhail Gorbachev's safety. Former U.S. President Ronald Reagan says the coup darkens the dawn of a new world order.
The Soviet Union coming back into the family of nations with people's freedom and so forth, that it would be a great improvement for the world.
Passengers on a Soviet Aeroflot flight that landed in New York Monday expressed shock about the events in their homeland. Some say they're afraid to go back to the Soviet Union. Also arriving in the United States were 4 Americans who had been visiting Soviet Georgia as part of the Friendship Force. They say they saw many soldiers in Moscow Sunday night. The upheaval in the Soviet Union is making some Soviet sailors in the United States think about not returning to their country. Jim Foreman has that.
One crew member from the Shirshov jumped ship and has not been heard from since. And there is talk on board that as many as 25 members of this goodwill tour will get off the ship and stay in Seattle. The captain of the Shirshov says that as long as his ship is in American waters, passengers and crew members who want to stay behind can.
We are located on the territory of the United States, and I think your law is like ours. We must operate according to your law, and there won't be any obstacles to people who want to leave.
Many of those on this privately sponsored Russian expedition have found new freedom and new business opportunities because of Mikhail Gorbachev and perestroika. People like Nick Lustenko, who has started an independent television network in the Soviet Union. That network was abruptly shut down overnight.
I see that it's very, seems like Tiananmen event. I think a tank can be defeated only by the other tank, but I wouldn't like to see civil war happening in Russia.
The captain and leaders of the expedition say the ship will continue on its scheduled stops in San Francisco, Los Angeles, and Hawaii. But once they are ready to head back home to the Soviet Union, some on board say they will have a tough choice. Those who would like to stay here, if they have enough money, he says, they have visas and they can stay. But now, for the crew here, it is a time of watching events closely.
He's saying that everybody is fearful that it would be a return to the past, and therefore he hopes, because everybody's fearful, he hopes that that won't happen.
Seattle immigration attorney Dan Daniloff says he's expecting a lot of people to request asylum.
The Immigration Service at this stage will be very benevolent in accordance with President Bush's proclamation this morning that we're going to wait and see what happens.
And that's just what the passengers and crew of this ship are doing. Jim Foreman for CNN, Seattle.
India police say the man behind the assassination of former Indian Prime Minister Rajiv Gandhi has been found dead. Police say the mastermind and 6 others were found dead of apparent suicides at his hideout. Gandhi was killed by a bomb explosion in May while campaigning to return to office. His death postponed the elections.